Hello and welcome back to the 29th episode of my still unnamed survival series. Today we are going to start things off with a little bit of base building. I want to add quite a bit more to our mega base here before we get into a little bit of farm building. With our village expanding and our paths extending, I will need access to more and more wool for our little path benches. I would also like to eventually lay some things out using wool and eventually build with wool. So you may have guessed we're building a wool farm. But before we get into that, I want to point out something you may have already noticed. There are still no game sounds. I do apologize. Hopefully this is fixed soon, but for now, let's just start working on the base. I have been stockpiling a lot of resources for a very long time now. I don't think I have enough bone blocks to start this next part, so we might skip that. But we definitely have enough stone. I'm going to be building the first little section right above our fins. These are going to be probably double in height by the time I'm done with this today. I'm going to start off by extending our fins up one little tier, and that's going to change their color as well. And for the gray blocks, I'm going to be building columns in between our fins. That's going to give us a little bit of structure and give us a really good foundation. I hope you guys enjoyed that time lapse. I had a lot of fun building this beauty. Yeah, that looks gorgeous. This is gonna be amazing when it's finished, and I can't wait. But I still need to gather a few different types of blocks, especially for our windows right here. I still have a long way to go and a large height to reach. This is gonna come to about here just for the main base of this little section. And even on this first wall, I still have a lot to do. I haven't touched these corners yet. They're a little bit more tricky. Other than that, there's not much I can complain about. There is this separation between these right here. It's looking a little too gray on the bottom and a little too light on the top. So I might want to try and blend that in together. You can really tell how I did this in the time lapse. So I might have to add a little bit more bricks and other cobblestone stuff on this side down here. So I might have to go back and do a few touch-ups when this is all said and done. But I might have to do that a little sooner because this is a big base and it's gonna take a long time for me to finish this. I am still gonna be building a fairly large city around my base right here. This building is going to be the Capital City Palace. And yes, I'm king. So I guess the next thing on today's agenda is a wool farm. But that leaves the question, where do I put it? I placed some netherrack a long time ago in a few building ideas, so I might try and go off one of those. I would like to spread my village in this direction fairly soon, but we might not be to that point yet. I do like this spot over here. I'll probably just go with this spot and plop it down somewhere. I would like a wool farm that produces all of the colors of wool, but I don't think I'm quite ready for that yet. That might be a little too big for the first wool farm. I also want this to be on the smaller side as well, but mimicking the architecture of our village. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. But I guess I'm gonna grab my redstone shulker boxes and get started. I'm thinking right here would be a great spot, so I'm gonna set down all of my shulker boxes and maybe get to work. I'm gonna do things a little differently than I have in the past, and I'm gonna start with the interior first. I'm gonna build up all of the redstone and then build around it. And I'm thinking that this is gonna be another barn type building, but I also kind of want it to match my village. So I'm not sure how to incorporate the barn idea. I'm gonna start by building up the storage. Each sheep is gonna have their own individual storage chest. That way, if I ever decide to dye the sheep a different color, they already have their own individual storage system. I'm gonna try and funnel these items in from the back. I would like to keep the center of these chests kind of clear. I have a little arch design that I think I'm gonna try and build into this design. I was thinking the inside of this building should be kind of log cabin-esque, so I'm trying to add a little bit of curved texture with these stairs. This might not work out the way I want it to, but I think I'm gonna give it a go. Honestly, I'm kind of improvising this build. I just have a general idea of what I want this to look like and no real plan. I do know one thing though, it's time to put in the rails and hopper minecarts. Those are gonna go right above the hoppers, and then above those I'm gonna put grass blocks, which is where my sheep are gonna sit. But now that I have my grass placed, I'm gonna put some observers in the back observing that grass. That way when the sheep eat the grass, the observers detect that change and then send out a redstone pulse. That is going to power these blocks. Next, I'm gonna place my dispensers on top of my observers and connect it all using this redstone dust. Now that all of my redstone is finished up and connected, I need to build up my sheep chambers. The walls separating my sheep need to be made out of glass or some other transparent block. The grass underneath the walls needs to be able to grow between the sheep cells, and if it's not a transparent block, the grass underneath the blocks will die and it won't be able to spread underneath the wall. I've pretty much finished up the chambers where my sheep are gonna sit, and now I'm moving on to decorating them. This is gonna be exposed on the inside because it's gonna be kind of like a little tunnel with a roof above it. Now it's time to grab some sheep. I have moved all of the sheep that were in the village into this redstone wool farm, and I'm thinking they need some name tags, but some very special name tags. These Jeb name tags. And just in case you guys have never seen this done before, no, these sheep will not give you multiple colors of wool. They will still only give you the wool color they were before the name tag. In this case, it's white wool. Now that my sheep are in place, I think it's about time that we finish up this redstone. And the last little bit we have to do is put our input for our shears. The way I'm gonna do that is basically cap our sheep chambers with some double chests. This makes our input a little bit wider and completely prevents the sheep from ever getting out under any circumstance. Now that all of my redstone is done, I'm thinking we actually start to decorate this little redstone contraption. And I've been wanting to practice my freestyle building a little bit, so none of this has been planned out in any way, shape, or form, and I'm just building. So I'm thinking we start this off by adding a little bit of framework and give this a little bit of a structure to kind of base this build off of. I would like it to match our village and our theme, so it's probably gonna have a similar roof style to one of the buildings in this village. Overall, this isn't going to be too different than any other building in the village. It's not going to be overly detailed or overly large. It's just going to be a smaller building to kind of push out the edge of our village. I kind of thought this frame was a little small to fit all of my redstone, so I kind of bumped it out just a smidge on the outsides, and that might mean we have to go up a little bit too. Maybe make it a little bit taller just to keep itself in proportion. So I think this is the shape and the profile I'm gonna go with for the bottom half of this building. I really like this archway, and I feel like there's a lot that I can do with it. I know I want this building to mimic my wheat farm and my starter house, but I know I don't want these little loopy things. I know I want this to be similar to my starter base and my wheat farm, so I might steal this little archway in the center and put it on the wool farm. Just maybe a little bit smaller. I know I want this to fit in with the general feel of the village, so copying a little bit from those buildings might be the best way to go about it. Now that I have my smaller archways in place and I've put a little bit of a trim work around the edges of our roof line, I think it's time we put the actual structure of the roof in place. And like the other roofs in this village, it's going to be a fairly large archway with some overhangs coming off the side of it. And this is my frame. I think it's looking pretty alright. It's a little bit smaller than I imagined, but that's okay. I think I'm gonna add the little overhangs next before I even add any of the other blocks to the base of our building. Honestly, I really like these curved overhangs. I probably say that a lot and every time that I build these, but these are probably my favorite little detail on these buildings. I've finished my archways and I think it's about time we start working on the bottom here, but this is what the top frame looks like and I think it's looking pretty nice. I feel like we could add a little bit more to it. I'm not entirely sure. I want a path running from over here to somewhere over here, but that seems a little lengthy and kind of random. I don't know. I'll have a think about it. Now that my frame is all built up, I've grabbed some bricky gray type blocks and I think this is all I'm gonna use for the base. I don't think I want to incorporate any other forms of color. I think I just want this to be more of a stony feel. I would also like to incorporate the tough blocks from 1.17 and I think this will be a good way to do it. So I'm going to start with these stone bricks just to give this a nice looking foundation, and as it goes up the wall, it's going to gradually descend into more broken type textures such as cobblestone, andesite, and tuff. I have never been a fan of single blocked walls. I've always liked to mix and match different blocks in the same color palette. I've always thought my builds looked a little bit better when I do it this way, but I'm thinking in the future I might try and mix and mash up my building style with some other ones I've seen around the internet. I've been taking a lot of inspiration recently from a few different builders I've seen on Instagram and YouTube, so eventually I might try and mix up my building style, especially when we get to the larger city builds and not these more like barn buildings. And this is our building. I think that it is about time that we get started on the roof. So I think with this roof, I'm gonna try and make it kind of an odd mixture between my first house, my starter house, and my wheat farm. Just because my wheat farm also has these sideways overhangs, and I'm kind of drawing influence from that as well. I think I'm overdoing it with the wheat roofs in this village a little bit. I would like to break away and try something a little different, but still in theme. Honestly, I would really like to get started on my city right now, but unfortunately, I need to finish my mega base first. I've now finished the roof and I'm looking at it and I don't know what to do on the sides. I feel like we need some more little spiky things, but I really don't want to use these ones. They're the ones that I have been using for most of my builds recently, and I'm not feeling them. So instead, I think I'm going to use these slender little spiky things that are over on our first building. I'm just not feeling these little loops today. The roof is completely done for this build. I was kind of mimicking my starter house a little bit more than the wheat farm. I really liked the vibe of this little cabiny lined thing. I loved the spruce stairs on the side, and I wanted to bring that feel into the village a little bit more. I don't know why I like that roof so much, but I do. And now that my roof is all patched up, it's about time I think about the side sections here. I've been thinking about the colors I want and how exactly I want this building to feel. I know that I've used a lot of red in this village already, but I think I'm going to use that again, but try and blend in the color from all the buildings so far. I had a lot of red concrete powder left over from our barn build, and I decided that I wanted to throw that into this color palette a little bit, just to kind of blend the village together a bit more than it is. I also really loved the combination of the wood, the brick, and the granite that we used on our wheat mill, and I really wanted to try that again just with something maybe a bit smaller. And I thought this was perfect for it. Now that my wall is up, I think I'm just gonna poke a hole in the side of it and make a fancy window. I really liked the one that we had on the side of our starter house, so I'm gonna make something pretty similar to that one. I've tried out a few different designs, but this is the one that I settled with. I have this on both sides. It looks a little bulky for my taste, and I don't quite think it fits with the size of the building, but that's the best that I could get, and I'm gonna go with that. It's not so bad that it's absolutely appalling, and I think it kind of fits with the shape and style of this building. I have the exterior almost completely done now. It's all right, it's nice, it's pretty simple, I think. But now that it's done, I am thinking about the interior, specifically the floor. I want this to look good, but also be really simple, and I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna do that yet. So I have an idea for my floor, and it's a pretty simple one. I'm only gonna use logs, but I'm gonna quarter turn them. So I'm gonna place them in this direction every other one, and then rotate them 90 degrees in between those. This is something they do in real life with tiles all the time, and it's gonna look something kind of like this, which actually looks pretty cool. I think this is a win for the floor. I actually really like this. I might strip these just to give it a different color than the frame, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see. Yeah, I think I am gonna strip these. I want to cover up my chest with spruce trapdoors, and the color of the trapdoors matches the stripped logs a little bit better than it does the normal textured logs, and that was kind of my deciding thought, was to just keep the colors kind of similar. I think I'm gonna do a little bit more on the outside of this building. It's a little plain, and I don't like that. I want every building in my village and in my world to be an outstanding build just by itself, and then even better when you see the world as a whole. And I think this building falls a little flat with that, so I'm gonna add a little something on the outside that I've never done before, and it's gonna be a pergola. So I'm not sure how good this is gonna turn out, or even if it's gonna turn out good looking at all, but I am gonna attempt it. I've always really liked the look of the 3 fence gates next to a wall. I love that small little arch it gives, so I think I'm gonna use that here too. I've used it quite a bit in this village, and I think it's gonna tie this together a little bit better than if I just didn't use this at all. And I'm using this as my top little frame for this pergola. So I've got my pergola frame all made up, and it is kind of small, which is all right. That's kind of what I wanted, and I've been trying to think of blocks that I can use to kind of get the vibe that I want. And one of the main characteristics of a pergola is it doesn't have a solid roof. It has boards strung across the top of the frame, creating shadows on the ground. These boards are usually something like a 2x6 or a 2x12, and there aren't really many blocks in Minecraft that kind of give that perception and that feel. The only block that I could think of was the campfire. When placed in the same direction, it basically does have boards going in the same direction. I'm not sure how well this will work or even look, but I have kind of high hopes for it. I have all of my roof placed, and it's looking all right, but I've been thinking about the interior for this pergola, and I was kind of thinking I would put a cooking station. So I'm gonna place this campfire with a cauldron on top, kind of like I'm boiling a pot of something, and I'm also gonna put this grindstone above the top and maybe a chain connecting the two so it looks like a little pulley. I kind of like that. I think I'm gonna do it a little bit better. That was just a bit of a test to see if I actually had the space to put that in there. You know, I think I might end up putting my path connecting to this as well, so I'm gonna give this some pathy textures. Maybe throw in some stone, maybe some bushes around this area too. That would be nice. I already added these bushes, and they definitely look good. But I'm gonna go ahead and add some of our stony textures in this little area, just because I do like the path vibe that we're going for here. It looks worn down, and this is kind of a rest area that I'm going for, and I like the way that it looks worn down and used. So this is what it looks like flying in, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm in love with that or not. It looks a little bit out of proportion. I think it could be a little bit bigger, but overall I'm pretty satisfied with that. I might try and blend in the dirt around this area and maybe terraform a little bit just so that transition is a little bit more smooth. And I'm definitely going to add a little bit more detail on the inside of this to give it a little bit more cozy of a feel. So I guess all that's left is to fill up the fuel for our sheep farm, and this runs pretty much on shears and only shears. So I am gonna craft up a bunch of shears, probably maybe 3 stacks of iron blocks worth of shears, and fill up every chest to the maximum. I don't wanna have to reload this thing ever. So I have an inventory full of iron, and I'm just gonna start crafting shears here and throwing them in these chests until every single one of them is full. We have 8 chests and 8 units to fill up, so this might take a while. Our farm is completely loaded, everything seems to be working fine. I'm gonna do a little bit of math here to see how many blocks of wool this will actually get us. I'm not actually gonna do the math now, that's gonna be up in edit. So here it is. This is definitely gonna get us a lot of wool though. Probably too much. And with the addition of our farm and our pergola, I think we're gonna call it an episode right here. I did some detail work underneath our pergola, and I think it looks pretty good. I've got some chicken and a cup over there on a table underneath our boiling water. I also have our bed and our trash can over on the right. I don't know, I really like it. It's quaint. But anyway, I hope you liked today's episode. I had a lot of fun making this and a lot of fun building this little building here. Overall, I don't think it's the best build I've ever done, but it's definitely nowhere near the worst. We might revamp it in the far future, but for now, I'm satisfied. But as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. My name is Red Skies, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. As you may have heard, my game sounds are still non-existent, which is unfortunate. Hopefully, in the near future, the glitch in my recording software will be fixed, but honestly, I'm not holding out for that. On the plus side, I did get a new microphone, so my voice audio sounds way better than it did. So there's always a plus. But if you made it this long in the video, I really appreciate it. And if you have any tips or tricks for using DaVinci Resolve or video editing in general, please leave a comment down below. I would love to hear your opinion. But for now, goodbye.